The Wolves lay yet another egg. What happened in this one? How the Wolves were blown out by the Hawks next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Happy New Year's, everybody. Hopefully you had a fantastic New Year's Eve and close to 2025. Wolves did not do their part on New Year's Eve afternoon with their blowout loss to the Atlanta Hawks for the second time in the last, 5 days, 4 days, whatever it's been since Saturday. 5 days, I guess. The Wolves lost to an inferior opponent, looked terrible doing it, stopped trying in the second half. What do we do from here? What's next? I want to talk about the actual nuts and bolts about what happened. Yes, effort level was a huge piece of it, but like what were the areas of the game that suffered because of the lack of effort and the disjointedness from the team on both ends of the floor? We'll talk about some of the post-game comments, especially from Donte DiVincenzo and Rudy Gobert. I thought they each, they had kind of differing takes on the same situation. So I want to dig in on that a bit. We'll do individual studs and duds, but man, there was just a lot that was really ugly in this game, and it's frustrating that it keeps happening with so much frequency against teams that they should be beating. And also like DiVincenzo made some comments about Chris Finch. We'll talk about that, like where it's so hard to play the blame game here, to assign a percentage of blame to individuals, but we'll try and parse some of the like coaching versus what we're actually seeing from the on-court product versus roster construction. I don't want to get like too far into the weeds on all that today, but I want to kind of introduce some of those topics, and we'll probably dig in on a bit tomorrow on the show as well. Big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. All right, so setting this one up, this was a Trae Young-less Atlanta Hawks team. We talked about this in the preview show. The Hawks are actually 13-11 coming into this game with no Trae Young, and now they're 14-11 with no Trae Young. They had lost 7 straight games, 5 of which Trae Young had played in, 2 of which he had not, including a Thunder game in which they were competitive earlier this week. But no Trae Young in this one. They did have Kristaps Porzingis playing in just like his 12th or 13th game of the season. Otherwise, a healthy Hawks team, and they've been pretty good at times this year. And I do want to credit them. Right now with like, because I'm going to spend most of this time talking about the Timberwolves, obviously, but the Hawks did play hard in this game. They had a pretty good defensive game plan with the way that they guarded Anthony Edwards. They like the length, the athleticism, the relative youth of this team was all really good. They wanted it more than the Timberwolves, and they had a good game plan. Quinn Snyder put together a good game plan. The guys executed it. So they did play strong defense. So it's not simply the Wolves laying an egg, but the biggest piece of this was the massive, massive egg that the Wolves. Okay, so I have the Hawks praise out of the way. I should also acknowledge the Anthony Edwards leaving the bench thing. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Obviously, it wasn't good. Chris Finch called him out for it after the game. I'm sure Ant will say something about it when he talks to the media. The Wolves don't play again until Saturday, but that's not a good look. There's no two ways about it. That said, he's the only guy that did anything offensively in this game. I'm sure he was frustrated. Obviously not the right way to approach it. If you missed it, when Chris Finch pulled everybody like just under the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter, down like 28, I think, Ant just left, went to the locker room. Can't do it. There's no excuse for it. Credit to Chris Finch after the game for remaining, like he always does. And I know people don't like this, even keeled when he talked. Like, there is it actually, let's save this for when I get into the DiVincenzo and Gobert comments, because I do want to talk about, like, should they be panicking? Because the fan base is panicking. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Let's start with what went wrong from an actual like on-court perspective. Early in the game, they just didn't play defense, and neither team could miss. I mean, Ant was on fire in the first quarter. The Hawks were on fire in the first quarter. And it was like Minnesota just thought, all right, we'll keep pace. They'll eventually stop making shots. Well, guess what? The Wolves defense was bad the entire game, and the Hawks didn't stop making shots. And then the offense after the first quarter, the offense got worse for Minnesota. The defense remained bad. The Hawks defense remained good, and the Timberwolves stopped making shots. Ant had 30 points in this game. Randle had 19. Nobody else, excluding Johnny Juzang's 10 garbage time points, nobody else had more than 8 points in this game for the Timberwolves. It's just astonishing. And yes, they threw in the towel early in the fourth quarter, but still, like, somebody should have more than 8 points after 3 quarters besides your 2 best offensive players. So I like early in the game, it was simply there was no defense being played. And then that continued to be the primary issue as the game wore on for Minnesota. The perimeter defense was bad. That is the first kind of crack in the armor, right? If the perimeter defense is bad, these guys are getting runs to the rim all day long, and they're getting open three-pointers whenever they want. They did not guard the three-point line well, which is my keys to the game were guard the three-point line and be solid on the defensive glass, because this is not a good offensive rebounding team and you should be fine. Guess what they didn't do? Either of those things. The Hawks ended up shooting just 38% from 3, but I'm confident they were much better than that early in the game. And it was Nickeil Alexander-Walker doing it to his former team. It was Jalen Johnson. Both those guys shooting a little bit better than their season averages from outside the arc. The lack of just stay in front of guys on the perimeter. Minnesota could not do that. And Atlanta finished the game. And again, this includes almost 8 minutes of garbage time. They finished the game with 64 paint points. Minnesota had 36. They almost doubled up the Timberwolves in the paint in this game. They had 16 offensive rebounds. Atlanta did. Atlanta only attempted 16 free throws. And it's just because the Wolves didn't play defense. Like, this was a classic case of not only were they defending without fouling, they were defending without defending. Like, they weren't close enough to foul anybody the entire game. And like, Ant is part of the problem here. Like, I know I already mentioned the 30 and he was the only guy that could score, but Ant was not defending in this game. Nobody was defending on the perimeter for the Timberwolves, and that made the points in the paint assignment impossible. I don't think Rudy was very good in this game either, but it was the points in the paint is not simply a Rudy problem. And I talked extensively on yesterday's show about how bad the Timberwolves defense is when Rudy's off the floor. And it was bad, whether it didn't matter whether or not he was on the floor in this game, it was just bad. But the Reid, Julius Randle front court minutes continue to be completely untenable from a defensive perspective, which makes them untenable overall, not just defensively. So the defensive effort on the perimeter, and then ultimately what led to 1 billion points in the paint for Atlanta, or I guess to be exact, what did I say? 64 points in the paint for Atlanta. The amount of open three-pointers Atlanta got early in this game, and that was the biggest problem. And then as soon as the shots dried up for Minnesota, Atlanta didn't turn down their defensive pressure either. So I want to credit them. The defensive pressure was really good from the Hawks. But the Timberwolves, as soon as they stopped making shots, it's like they tried even less on defense. It wasn't, the identity of this team a couple years ago was, oh man, our offense isn't working. Let's pester the crap out of them defensively, force them into tough shots, create some turnovers, etc. Atlanta had like 1 turnover in the first half of this game. Everything came so easily for the Hawks. The Timberwolves did not turn up the heat defensively. It was the opposite. They tried less. And the other first half problem was turnovers. Minnesota turned it over overall for the game 14 times. I'm pretty sure 10 of those were in the first half when the game was, technically still in the balance, although it got away from Minnesota pretty quickly in the second quarter. They got it to within 16 at one point in the third quarter, and then the Hawks pushed it right back up after a timeout. Turnovers were a problem, like missing open shots and turnovers, which then fed the fast break for Atlanta, which was something that I was concerned about coming in. I know they finished the game with 10 fast break points, but the Hawks had, I think, like all of those were in the first half, and it's what helped kind of bury the Timberwolves very early in this game. So one problem certainly beget other problems, as often happens. And it's the effort that we can keep coming back to. All the second chance point opportunities, the points in the paint, the lack of perimeter defense, the lack of simply just contesting jumpers from the perimeter. Those things all happen, and it just comes back to being out-hustled, out-worked, out-tried. Like, they just didn't try for so much of this game. I want to dig in on some of those post-game comments. That's really it in terms of my analysis of what happened. Like, those were the problems. The first half turnovers, the first half lack of perimeter defense, the lack of points in the paint, the second chance points for Atlanta. That was it. And those are almost all entirely effort statistics. I want to talk about the post-game comments from Finch, from Gobert, from McDaniels. No, not McDaniels, DiVincenzo. We'll do that. In the context of this game, we'll close by doing some quick individual studs and duds. And that's how we'll close out here today. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Gametime. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building. The energy, the crowd, the first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. And that's where Gametime comes in. The Gametime app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets. Fast, simple, and without the guesswork. You can browse the Gametime app. It's super straightforward, really intuitive. You can find tickets in just a few taps, see the view from your seat before buying. It makes choosing tickets easy, will make you feel confident about the process. Plus, the prices include fees up front, so the total is clear from the start. Features like zone deals help unlock great seats at even better value. Whether it's an NBA game or another live event, everything is right there in one place. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app today and get in on the action. Big thanks once again for making Locked On Wolves your first listen of the day. And of course, thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We could not have achieved that without you, the loyal listener. And if you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. It includes access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Wolves. It's compatible with Apple Podcasts, with Spotify, every other major podcast app. Plus, you get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes group chats for listeners of each individual show. You go to lockedonwolves.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Okay, so post-game. Pretty interesting. First, you get comments from Rudy Gobert. And Rudy is pretty direct. Well, I guess everybody that spoke was pretty direct. I'm going to get the exact quote here. Let's see. Rudy says, Rudy was asked, this is courtesy of Ryan Eichten on from Catus Hoopus, posted this on X. He said, Rudy Gobert on how the team is currently playing. He says, quote, not like a team that wants to play for a championship. That's for sure. Then asked about why games like this happen so often. He says, do we care? This is Gobert talking now. Quote, do we care? Does something happen when we played like the first quarter tonight? Or is it just cool? Make a lot of money. We play basketball, do what we do, and go home and be happy. I think that's the fine line between a team that's playing for a championship and a team that's full of talent but doesn't accomplish jack, I'll say. I'm subbing a word, but doesn't accomplish anything. Okay? That's the Gobert comments. Pretty interesting. Obviously not singling anyone out, and they all make a lot of money. So I'm not necessarily sure that he is calling out the superstars on the team. I mean, Rudy would be one of them, right? Ant, Rudy, Randle, they make the most money of anybody. I don't necessarily know that that's what he's doing. Okay. Now keep that in mind. Here's what Dante says. Dante DiVincenzo has a little bit of a different take. He says, man, I keep losing. Here we go. He says, how many meetings, how many film sessions, how many times has Finchie had to talk to us? It's just frustrating because you go out in Chicago, you play well, you respond, and then you come in here and lay an egg. This is also courtesy of Ryan Eichten on Twitter. And then Dante and the coaching staff, they're doing their job. It's on us. It sounds so cliche, but at some point you just have to go out there and play. They're not out there playing. It doesn't matter how many plays Finchie draws up. Doesn't matter how many defensive schemes we do if they can't control how hard you play. Okay. So a couple things. They both are acknowledging that it's effort, both Gobert and DiVincenzo. Gobert's sounds like more of a deep-seated issue. And there was also another Dante comment, which I can't find. There was another DiVincenzo comment where he and this is a complete paraphrase now. The others were direct quotes. This is a paraphrase where he acknowledges that these things happen. They're not panicking. Stretches like this happen in the league, which is more or less what Chris Finch said after the game. Okay. So I believe all these things are true. Rudy's comments make it seem like there's a deeper seated issue. Like there's guys on the team that really don't care or really don't either think or believe or buy that there's a chance they can win a championship and therefore are not putting forth full effort. I'm reading between the lines of Gobert's comments. DiVincenzo's are more, It's frustrating that this is happening. It's not Chris Finch's fault. We're going to figure it out. Ultimately, we'll be okay. Chris Finch is basically the last part of that. Like these stretches happen. Excuse me. And I've done this before. I've gone through, I've done this a couple times already this year, which this is the third time now, as we get to New Year's Day that I've had to do this. But you go through and look at some of these stretches last year. It's like, man, the sky really was falling. They were at 500 essentially around New Year's last year. They, just blew terrible games against bad teams. And like there were absolutely terrible moments last year with the team. And they end up going to the conference finals. There were less of those stretches 2 years ago because what was it? They didn't lose 3 in a row until the playoffs. I'm pretty sure 2 years ago until the conference finals against the Mavs. So more last year than the year before. But virtually every good team goes through stretches like this. The problem is the Wolves have already been through multiple, and they seemingly come on with no rhyme or reason at against whatever opponents, home, on the road, like rest, no rest, guys in lineup, guys out of lineup, opponent shorthanded or not. Like there's no real rhyme or reason to why the Wolves just kick some of these games away. And that's certainly concerning. I see all of their points, and it's impossible to look at what happened against Atlanta and also what happened on Saturday against Brooklyn and not point to effort being the problem. And I've long been a Chris Finch defender, and I agree with DiVincenzo. The coaches can't make the players play hard. But who's often to blame when a team seems unmotivated? You can't fire the players, right? That's always the thing. You can't fire all the players. So this is where I think if the Wolves had not been in consecutive conference finals, it's, like say Steph Curry plays in the second round last year and the Wolves lose in the second round, I don't think Tim Connelly would fire Chris Finch in season. And I absolutely do not think he will do that this year. I would be just floored if he did. He won't do it. But would it be on the table if the Wolves hadn't gone to the conference finals 2 straight years? Which is obviously like, I don't want to take that out of the equation, but if like he's not going to for that reason, right? But what do you do when the team seems unmotivated? And DiVincenzo's right. It doesn't matter what you draw up if the players don't try. And these are grown men. They're adults. They're professional basketball players. They're responsible for their own actions on the floor. But at some point, like Chris Finch is supposed to be the leader and get these guys, like he shouldn't have to get them motivated. But that's the other layer to this is like, if he can't, and if they're looking in the mirror collectively as a team and like, whatever the issues are, they can't figure out why they can't motivate themselves. Like, I kind of get what, like where else is the blame going to fall? It's going to fall on Chris Finch. Now, again, this is a team that's 20-13 or 21-13. And we could look up in 2 weeks, given the schedule and Jokic being out now for Denver, we could look up and they'll be third in the West. It doesn't change how frustrating some of these losses have been. And it doesn't change how frustrating it is that they really should be, instead of 9 games above 500, they should be 12, 13 games above 500. Back to Gobert's comments. I don't know, like, is he specifically calling out Ant? Because here's the thing is these guys all make these comments. DiVincenzo, Gobert, Ant's made them in the past. Like, do we care? I guess this is Timberwolves basketball. But they are the guys that have to figure it out. Like, none of those guys played well. Gobert didn't have a good game. DiVincenzo was 2 of 6 outside the arc. Started, I think, 0 of 4, I believe. It's not like any of them did anything to play better individually. So they've collectively got to look at it as a group, and they individually need to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing that's detracting from this team's success, or not doing that's detracting from this team's success? Because, like, this wasn't a case where you go, well, the Hawks are a better team. And it wasn't a case where you say, well, the Wolves just missed too many threes in this game. Or, this was a fluky last-minute loss to a team they messed around with, and at least it was close. No, they got blown out by an inferior team, missing the guy who's supposed to be their best player. And that's a debatable. Jalen Johnson at this point is better than Trae Young in my mind. But, it's bad. Like, this is bad. And it's probably a good thing they get 2 days off to clear their minds and decide they want to come after this thing differently. Obviously, a winnable game upcoming on Saturday. We'll talk about that. Well, Saturday and Sunday. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. But the postgame comments are interesting. The Ant leaving the bench thing isn't great. curious to see how this all shakes out in the next couple of days. We'll do a quick individual studs and duds here next, and then we'll close out the show here today. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel's making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern, that's 5 to 6:30 Central Time, have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new. Boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before your weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without having to overthink it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern. That's 5 to 6:30 Central Time. The Wolves don't play this Friday, but there is a large slate of games, as there always is on Fridays. It adds another layer of fun and excitement, a little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right. I say we're going to do studs and duds. Nobody really played well in this game. We talked about Ant. He was really good offensively early. He made his first couple threes, hit a couple of mid-rangers like he did against the Bulls, finished with 30 points on 18 shots. We'll take that. 5 points, 2 assists, couple of blocks. There could have been a layer to Ant leaving this game early, leaving the bench early. Him being mad because it was in front of his grandpa was there, his relatives, being from the Atlanta area. I guess I get that. But at the same time, your team's got to play better. You're their leader. There's a reason you're getting pulled. This is the NBA. You guys got to play better. And I don't know. I don't say I'm making that up. I'm inferring that. That could not have anything to do with it. He might have just been mad because he thought they could come back from 28 down with 8 left or whatever it was. But Ant wasn't good defensively. Nobody really gets a stud in this game. Ant had the best offensive numbers. Julius Randle had 19 points at 13 shots, hit his first 3 3-pointers, finished 3 of 4 from deep. He played okay offensively. That was it. Nobody else contributed anything offensively. Reid was 2 of 10 shooting, missed all 5 of his 3-point attempts, coming off a 33, 34-point performance against the Bulls on Monday. DiVincenzo was 2 of 6 on threes. Gobert had 6 points, 11 boards, no blocks. Jaden McDaniels had 8 points in 22 minutes. And as much as I called him out after Monday's game for not trying against Chicago, he tried less in this game. Jim Peterson started talking about it on the FanDuel Sports Network broadcast. What is Jaden? If he's going to be a third scorer, he's got to score. 8 points on 5 shots in 22 minutes ain't going to cut it when the team gets blown up by 24. There needs to be more effort from Jaden McDaniels, period. I would say if I had to pick duds, I'd go McDaniels and I'd go Reid. Neither one of them looked like they wanted to be there. Neither one of them played hard. Bones Highland was also really bad. He played a little garbage time, 3-4 minutes of garbage time, but he played 10 rotation minutes and was 0 of 7 shooting, missed all 3 of his 3-pointers, got blocked a couple of times, had 2 turnovers to 1 assist. Just a bad Bones game. Jalen Clark was good. This was only the second time Minnesota's lost when he's played more than 15 minutes in a game. And I think he played a couple garbage time minutes. No, he didn't actually. They took him out before garbage time. So it was all real minutes. And I thought he played well defensively. Took the ball to the basket a couple times, was nice. I don't know. There's no studs. Everybody's a dud. If I had to pick them, I'd say Nas and I'd say Jaden McDaniels are duds. If I had to pick studs, it'd be Randle and Edwards, and I would hold my nose while doing it, and I'd refuse to pick a third. Leonard Miller was good. There was 8 minutes of garbage time. Leonard Miller was good in garbage time. Knocked down a nice catch and shoot 3 on a great pass from Rob Dillingham. Had a nice bucket in the paint as well. 7 points on 3 of 4 shooting. He played well. Bernier was active, had 1 really nice block. Active on the glass. You'd like to see him pull down more than 2 boards in the 8 minutes of garbage time, but there was a lot of just easy shots from both teams in garbage time. Juzang was good. He was active. 10 points on 6 shots, knocked down a couple threes. Dillingham was fine. I thought he looked good. 3 assists, no turnovers. Did a couple of those the possessions that he tends to do where he dribbles into the teeth of the defense and whirly birds up a tough shot. But I thought for the most part, he played well. It just kind of comes with the territory. And if he's making the shots and making smart passes when he does pass the ball, he's going to be a plus offensive player. I believe that. And I do think yes, the front court defense, the attention is now on how bad the non-Gobert minutes have been defensively, but the backcourt still needs a solution here. Like the Mike Conley minutes are still not tenable right now. They just have gone from fine to not good. And Rob Dillingham is going to have to, I think, be part of the solution unless they do something drastic. But that'll be something to keep an eye on moving forward. I don't know. We could power rank the issues on Friday's show. I don't know. Maybe that's what we do. We talk, is it the front court? Is it the non-Rudy minutes in the front court? Is it the backcourt depth overall? Is it like, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of issues now. And it's funny, like not actually funny, but it's still a 21-13 team. It's just, and remember, my bold prediction before the season was that this team would be 27-7 today on January 1st, would be 27-7 because the schedule was easy. They haven't played a back-to-back in 5 weeks, and they've kicked it all away. And now we're looking at a schedule that gets a lot tougher. The back-to-backs ramp up starting this weekend. It's not going to get any easier for this team. And that is like, on the one part of me wants to be like, it's fine. The sky's not falling. They're 21-13 and Denver's got the Jokic injury and the Lakers aren't as good as their record and they'll be fine. But then the other part of me says the schedule gets tougher from here. They've got a top 5 toughest schedule remaining. We'll probably talk about that some on Friday. The back-to-backs ramp up and then the vibes around the team are so bad. And the trade deadline's now less than 5 weeks away. Like what happens here in the next month? We'll talk about some of that on Friday. We'll break down, the upcoming schedule as well. Now they've lost 3 of 4. They have the Heat on Saturday. We'll break that matchup down on tomorrow's show. It's a matinee, 4:00 Central on Saturday before going to Washington on Sunday. Tough to face the Wizards on a back-to-back in what should be a really winnable game, but who knows? So we'll break down both those matchups Friday and talk about realistic expectations for the month of January. I think that's what we talk about Friday. So what some of the biggest issues are. We talked about some rotation solutions for the non-Rudy minutes on yesterday's show, so we'll touch on maybe some of the backcourt stuff on Friday then as well. A reminder about the live postcast we do after every game on YouTube. Our guys Jack and Luke go live after every Wolves game on the Locked On Wolves YouTube channel. Then that audio is posted right here on the audio feed, so you can listen to it after the fact if you can't catch it live. A big thank you for making this show your first listen every day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. A reminder about the Everydayer Club. If you haven't already signed up for it, it's fantastic. If you already make us your first listen every day, you might as well check out the Everydayer Club. You can get Locked On Wolves ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. You can head to lockedonwolves.supercast.com. That's lockedonwolves.supercast.com to join the club. And for those of you watching on video, we'll send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel as well. Make sure on audio you make your second listen NBA game night on Locked On NBA. Of course, this show is also part of that very same Locked On Podcast Network, your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast. We'll catch you next time. Have a great start to the new year, everybody.